Hello, everybody. Particularly for those in person, I can greet you to Poland. We are in Poland, right? That's the beauty of this venue. You can visit all member states. They are just one doorstep away. Just for you online to understand a bit what are our predicaments here in the venue. Welcome to our session. Today in this room, in Poland room, we have the EPBD implementation track. That's how we called it. In the morning we had a workshop with 2 sessions focusing much more on the smart readiness indicator and smartness of buildings in general. This afternoon we go a bit wider in scope. We deal with energy performance certificates. That's actually the name of the cluster under which this workshop has been organized. But of course this doesn't stop there, because EPC and SRI, they are interlinked with other policy instruments that are part of the EPBD. So be prepared to have a very open exchange. We have a lot of space allocated also for exchanges with you in the audience. Hopefully we might take some questions also from the participants that are joining us online. It's the 4th year for us at Sustainable Places, so a big thanks to R2M Solution and all the national partners that organize these annual events. Each year we focused on specific aspects of building performance assessment, certification and management. This year we are really having a policy twist because, as you know, it's the time of magic. Member states now have to transpose and implement the EPBD Recast by May 2026. So it's a great pleasure for me to be here and moderate the event. I'm partner as EPB Center in several projects, but I'm also facilitating the clustering activities. Some practicalities: there is a participant list for those in person. My dear colleague Pablo is supporting this activity. Thank you, Pablo. So if you haven't signed, please be sure to sign, because we want to send a follow-up after the event. We want to share with you the slide deck, we want to share with you the recording, and the only way we can do that is if you leave with us your email address, or you can just leave your business card if that's more convenient, either way. You can see here the big family on the different generations. So this cluster started in 2019. That means that there were projects that submitted a proposal in 2018. So this is a mature cluster. And you'll see in the presentations today that we have really come to a very relevant and meaningful level in terms of the activities that we are conducting. And more so, the way we are cooperating. We are not reinventing the wheel in each project. We are working together and covering the gaps that might appear in between the different projects, and exploring and leveraging all the synchronicities. I need to change the slide. I'll just move a bit. So we start with me. I've already introduced myself. This is the welcome and introduction. This is in digital format because I was blocking the roll-up with all the projects in the cluster. So for the participants online, you can see on screen, this is the big family, the Next Gen EPC cluster. Of course, some of the projects have closed by now. So they are not here because they don't work anymore particularly, but partners from those projects are partners in the current project. So basically, this event is organized by the ongoing projects, and you'll see in all the transition slides you have the logos of the ongoing projects. So those are still active. You can register to the newsletters and be kept up to date. You have the QR code here of the agenda. So this is a web page where you have the agenda. We didn't print it out. It's more convenient. You can just scan it now. And then for the rest of the session, you don't have any surprises if you forget what I'm telling you now. I'm here to support, so if you have questions, I'm walking around taking photos as well. After me, we have the great honor to have with us today Hans, the head of unit of Life, Set, Energy and Climate. After which, we have his colleague Sylvain Robert, who is also representing DG ENER. Maybe I mixed up something. I see you're nodding. Ah, okay, my bad, my bad. But it's good if it's above and rather than below, no? You see my career opportunities in the future. I'm no fortune teller, but I mean. Okay, so this would be the keynote part of this first session. And then we have two colleagues from iEPB and SmarterEPC. We have Maria from CINEA and Sophie from R2M Solution France, who will get in a bit more details and technicalities. We still keep it policy focused, so don't be afraid that we will go into many technical details, boring, like a training, hands-on training. No, we will keep it very focused and relevant. And as you can see, the endeavor is to have half an hour, more or less, at the end for open exchanges with you in the audience, and of course among the keynote speakers and the speakers. This depends a lot on you, how fast you are. Like now, I'm taking much more time than I should, so I'll stop there. And I give the floor to Hans. Please, Hans, join us on the podium. If you prefer to stand, I can click on the slides.
That's very, very good.
Okay, so you just tell me when I hit.
Yeah, maybe you that would be great if you can hit the slides gently. Good, and there's even a nice picture of me as well, but I think you can all see me now as well. So I'm Hans Rhein, for those who were not at the opening of Smart Buildings, Smart Homes, not Smart Homes, a Smart Session now, Sustainable Places 2025 yesterday, where I also gave a short presentation on the live clean energy transition program. So I'm a bit the new kid in the block here, so I'm very glad that I managed to join on the 4th edition of your cluster meeting. I'm not going to give so much of a keynote speech, but really just maybe give you the warm-up, the setting in which your discussions can follow afterwards. I'm very keenly looking forward on the discussions that we have afterwards, because I think for us it's nice to see how you interact as a cluster, how you work together. It's quite impressive to have a cluster of projects that manage themselves, so to say, and try to interact and learn from each other. But I mean, we also always keen to have feedback on what we support and where maybe we should put more emphasis on in future. So you have, for once, two colleagues from CINEA, but I mean, as Andreas already said, I mean, we're kind of representing DG ENER here, who was unfortunately not able to come and be part of this cluster meeting, which they are normally. I think most of you know the Clean Energy Transition sub-program of the LIFE program. It is really a program that tries to support the implementation of the three key directives, so the Renewables Directive, the EPBD, as well as the Energy Efficiency Directive. And that we have done for quite a while, and I think with some good success on different parts. I mean, enabling the stakeholders and authorities to really create the market and regulatory enabling conditions to implement these directives, but also to address capacities and skills at all levels. We try to work on finance as well, very key, very difficult, but I think something that we need to continue and very much looking forward. And then obviously we try to help also through projects that are more directly addressing the needs of citizens in terms of information, but also trying to address key issues such as energy poverty. Our call has just closed for this year. We have annual calls. As I said yesterday, we have about 1 billion euros for the financial perspective. So over the 7 years, so we under this sub-program, we fund about 100 million euros of calls every year, so about 60 to 70 projects. Our call just closed on last week. And I'm not going to call a Hans who applied, but I suppose some people in the room have applied under this call as well, I hope. Very quickly on the areas that we, within the LIFE Clean Energy Transition Program, how we try to support implementation of the EPBD. So there's a whole work to support, and specifically the renovation, to make renovation cheaper, faster, and more affordable to the beneficiaries. So looking at also the supply chains, trying to support new projects in the industrialization of renovations and so on. So that's very important. And we have the whole question of information, the disclosure instruments, so EPBC, but also the built-up portal. So I think very important. The whole question of using technologies more, trying to roll out and test different smart readiness application, the building data collection work, the skills as I mentioned, but also, and I mean here it's called finance, but it's finance, but it's also real project development assistance that we try to give in helping municipalities through one-stop shops or different projects with project development assistance. Good. We can structure it a little bit more concretely about, we have one core topic in recent years that we call Better Reno, that has looked at all these different aspects, so the deep renovation, but also the questions on data, as well as smart building and services. Then we have one linked more to the policy implementation, specifically focusing on helping member states and authorities in the implementation of the policy. And as I said, we have more direct support actions on the different core topics that directly address the other areas of support. Maybe now coming specifically to the EPC related projects. So it's a little bit the same as André has presented in this nice roll-up here, but maybe more limited to the key projects that we have funded under First Horizon 2020, as André said, and since 2022 also under the LIFE program to support the rollout of EPCs and trying to make them smarter, more comparable, and also I think trying to maybe digitalize it a bit, and also trying, and I think that's something we need to work with, make sure that they are affordable as well, and they don't put an additional burden on the consumers. So the different range of activities that these EPC projects support there's a lot on policy support and policy dialogue, like the EPD WISE project. I think they will present later in as well. Has a number of policy sessions at national level integrated. As I said, there's a lot of projects that working on the digital tools and better calculation mechanisms, but also working on accuracy of the EPC assessments, but also trying to find different digital tools in order to help with the rollout of the EPCs. And then obviously a lot to deal with capacity building. I think the whole focus on user-friendly and user-centric EPCs, I think, has been throughout our projects very key in this series of projects that we have supported. And then on the last slide, I think we wanted to present the newest other project. So another project on the block that has just started, I think, in September 2024. So was under last year's call, was selected. It's coordinated by European Dynamics here in Luxembourg. I think a partner we have worked with, I think, but I mean, here they're coordinating a number of partners, both in a number of member states, including Greece, Denmark, Spain, Cyprus, but also Switzerland. Don't have that often participation of Switzerland in our projects, but it's good, obviously, to have them in here. And they're really looking at trying to develop an open source EPC engine that can serve as a universal software, and therefore really help, hopefully, in helping member states to roll out and have a more comparable EPCs across the board. So I think with that, I will stop here, and then really looking forward to the discussions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hans. If you have burning questions, just write them down. You received a notebook in the conference bag and also a pen, so just write them down. We try to keep the time, and then we open up the exchanges when we get to the panel discussion. The same goes for the people online. Please drop the questions in the chat, and then we will try to deal with them as much as we can. Our second keynote is Sylvain Robert. He's project advisor, not senior project advisor yet. Here it's correct on this slide. And he will wear two hats basically today. His usual hat nowadays at CINEA, but he will also wear the hat of DG ENER. And he will, in addition to his breadth of knowledge in what CINEA is doing to support policy uptake, policy development in LifeSet, he will also share with us the status of the EPBD Recast implementation activities. As you know, this is an ongoing process, a very complex process that involves all member states, and he will share with us, to the extent he can, in such a public setting, some insights in where they are at this moment. So Sylvain, please, the floor is yours. If you prefer to stand like Hans did, I can change the slides for you.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay, great.
Very nice of you. Thank you. All right. So yes, indeed, I'm with CINEA, but currently I'm helping the colleagues in DG ENER who are preparing the guidance for the member states in order to have an effective transposition and implementation of the recast EPBD. And so basically the aim is to have the guidance adopted by spring next year. So it leaves a bit of room for collecting inputs in order to make sure that good practices and lessons learned from project are flagged appropriately. So this is a first message. And so with this, I mean, the presentation is basically about the provisions, so the contents of the directive, of the recast of the directive on energy performance certificates. So I don't know to what extent I need to detail these contents. It's a bit tedious if I go stage by stage, because it's a legal text, so it's a bit dry from a stylistic perspective, let's say. So probably I will flag the main aspects that have evolved, and then I will skim through the slides just to show a bit more details. And if there is something that really catch your attention and you want to have more information, then of course feel free to say or to note down, as Andre was saying. But the aim is to keep as much room for discussion as possible, I understand. So, energy performance certificates were introduced very long ago in the directive. I think it was in the first version. I hope I'm not wrong, because one thing I should flag is that I'm the least competent person for speaking about energy performance certificates. Normally my colleagues Ulrike Nuscheller or Pao Garcia-Audi would be here to comment on this. But it was introduced long ago, and the aim has been gradually through the revisions of the directive to try to improve this tool. So you all know that an energy performance certificate shows energy classes. It shows basically it's a visual element that allows you to know, based on typically a color code, how energy performant your building is. And so here, the recast introduces a sort of harmonized way of defining these classes with energy performance classes from A to G, with a possibility to add an A0 and A+, but I won't get into the details because I don't think it's necessary, but basically, voila, an harmonized scale. Then what's important is that in the annex, in one annex of the directive, there is now a template which is quite detailed, as you will see, that says what items should be contained in the EPC, and sometimes even says where they should be placed, like on the front page, for instance. Then there are clarifications on the recommendations to improve the building. You probably know that these certificates include not only information on the status of the building, meaning its energy performance as it is, but also recommendations on how to improve that energy performance. And now the directive is giving more information in order to define better the scope of the recommendations that have to be included in the certificates. And then trigger points, for those who are not familiar with the term, are basically the points in time in the life of the building where, or the building unit, where an energy performance certificate is issued. And again, the directive is expanding the number of those trigger points. And then there are provisions, so elements in order to strengthen the quality framework and ensure reliability. So voilà, this was the main slide actually, because now we're going to go through quite quickly. So a common national visual identity, a common template, I already mentioned it, with mandatory indicators that have to be in the certificate and optional ones. Some provisions on the need for the certificate to be easily legible, but also available in machine-readable format, which is highly relevant in connection to one of the presentations at least we'll have afterwards, in relation to interoperability, data, access to data. Voilà, a period of validity. There can be simplified procedure for updating when the building has only single measures of renovation instead of a major renovation, for instance, allows to simplify the update of the certificates. Voilà, next slide. I'll try to go faster. So, yeah, I think I already mentioned some of these elements. So the scale from A to G, as I mentioned, A+, A0 optional. Then just to mention, this one is kind of important, key, because the scale is defined on the basis that the A class is zero emission buildings under the directive. And so if you go to the directive and you see what the definition of a zero emission building is, you know what the highest energy class will be. Voila, then next slide. I spoke about the template, the fact that in the directive it's defined what elements should be part of the certificate. And so here, these are the items on the front page, and there the mandatory ones, but that can be placed elsewhere. And also recommendations and reference values to compare the energy performance of the building in question with the applicable reference values. Next slide. Voila, so this is a list of voluntary elements. I'm not going to read it aloud, but basically it shows that actually these certificates can be a place for a wealth of information on building, but of course it's always somehow difficult to make it mandatory, because all this represents some work in order to assess, find information that is needed in order to have it in the certificate. So this is when member state judge it's appropriate on their territory. And then recommendations. So I was just mentioning that the directive was clarifying what it shall cover. So recommendation in order to improve energy performance, to reduce greenhouse gas emission, to improve indoor environmental quality, both major renovation and individual measures. Also recommendations on related to the technical building systems. And voila. So basically, now there is a reference in order for these recommendations to be shaped in the certificates. And regarding the issuing, so again, there are rules. There is a specific article under the directive related to issuing certificates. You might note the focus on vulnerable households. So we all know that these certificates have a cost that shall be borne, and well, there is the need to support those households in energy poverty. And there, the rules remain that these EPCs are issued by independent experts. There is quality and control schemes, etc., etc. One thing also that is relevant in relation to the next presentations is that all EPCs have to be uploaded in an energy performance database, and maybe this connect nicely as well to these interoperability issues of building information. Next slide. And I think, well, these are basically the elements for guidance, meaning the items that DG Energy is considering as interesting to address as part of the guidance. And I'm sure some of you are quite well aware of this, because a cooperation has been launched with the Next Gen EPC cluster. And I know that some data inputs have already been collected. But just for you to have in mind that, voila, this is where the guidance of the Commission could focus, at least in the first stage. And then the last slide to mention that the projects you are involved in, you are coordinating, really are represent a wealth of information, of useful feedback. And so it's critical for us that in this period of time, you make sure that all the relevant outputs, meaning the ones that could be useful to prepare the guidance for implementing those provisions on energy performance certificates, are collected, shared, aggregated under the kind leadership of André. And so, of course, the strong involvement of many others, because there is a limited period of time during which it makes sense to do this work, because once the guidance are adopted, published, it's a bit late. So voilà, make sure to liaise, to be involved in the cluster and to contribute to this work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sylvain. So that was the keynote side of the first session. We have now our next speaker. Maria, please, come. Don't be shy. You prefer to sit down? Yes. Okay, just remember to turn on the mic, and the floor is yours. I'll be there and make a signal when there are 5 minutes left to support you.
Okay, thank you. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, André, for the presentation, for the introduction. Well, this time I represent the iEPB project. So this is the cover. And I would like to give you a brief overview of the main motivation for the EPB project and the development of its common data model as a core of the project. So I'm going to give an overview about some specific concepts included in the EPBD, especially regarding to this topic. So as you know, the current EPBD implements a common framework for all member states. So with this slide, I would like to highlight two main aspects of this common framework in relation with the topic of my presentation. First, the definitions included in the EPBD regarding or about standards for new and existing buildings, such as the all-known nearly zero energy building or the new one, the zero energy building. These definitions set the ground for future definitions according to technology trends, such as the positive energy building and the EGIB, the efficient grid interactive building. On the other hand, we have the instruments. For instance, the minimum energy performance standards or several EPB assessments and numerical indicators, such as is the case of the Smart Readiness Indicator or the Life Cycle Global Warming Potential. In addition, the Building Renovation Passport, the digital building logbooks, and so on. All these instruments allow for a more precise definition of these building standards, often allowing for a quantitative assessment that can verify whether the building subject to the assessment meets a certain threshold. So, some aspects of this definition worth highlighting are, for instance, the continuous updating of the cost optimal levels to define the nearly zero energy building, or the definition of the zero energy building, which includes not only a very high energy performance with zero or very low greenhouse gas emissions, but also the ability to respond to external signals and adapt its energy use when economically and technically feasible. So this zero energy, zero emission building definition thus lays the groundwork for the introduction of the Egypt concept. This concept is not yet included in the Common Official Framework, but already present in our landscape as a strong technological trend to use the building sector as an important tool to reduce the pressure on electricity grids due to the increasing penetration of renewable energy sources and their intermittency. So to meet this challenge through the building sector, buildings should meet this concept, the Egypt concept of being efficient, smart, connected, and flexible. So by optimizing their energy performance and being able to shift their consumption patterns in response to the needs of the grid. So regarding the EPB assessments and other instruments, just to mention the EPC, of course, as Sylvain review all the new aspects in the EPBD, but also the life cycle global warming potential, the building renovation passport, and the digital building logbook. Also, the smart readiness indicator, of course, for rating the smart capabilities of a building to adapt its operation to the occupant needs and the grid needs, and to improve its energy efficiency and overall performance. In this context, I also invite you again to take a look to the SRE to Market project and its online platforms, the e-learning platform and the SRE assessment platform. So, in addition to these instruments and standard definition, very relevant for these topics, for the common data model, for the need of the common data model, are the articles 16 and 22, are particularly relevant for these issues. For the issue, member states shall ensure that building owners, tenants, and managers have direct access to the data of their building systems, including at least, of course, the energy performance data, which could be linked to the digital building logbook. In addition, all member states shall establish a national database on the energy performance of buildings, which may consist of a number of interconnected databases. So it will include at least information about or data about the EPCs, inspections, renovation passport, the smart readiness indicator, and calculated or measured energy consumption. And at least once a year, member states will transmit this information to the EU Building Stock Observatory. So this scenario implies a long list of requirements and deadlines for member states, but also for the Commission, including, for instance, the implementing acts detailing interoperability requirements and common templates for the transfer of this information to the EU Building Stock Observatory. So, within this scenario, all the many definitions, different EPB assessment across all member states will generate a huge amount of data that should be easily monitored and shared. So this will require a specific tool for harmonization and reporting. This is the proposal of a common data model based on the iEPB schema. Okay. Well, as you can see, first, the definition of our IPB format is based on existing common data formats, such as the GBXML. This is a reference for building energy models. It's known, well known in the sector, and also the International Reference Lifecycle Data Systems system for the global warming potential for the calculation or the assessment or the structure of data of the global warming potential life cycle. So, the IPB proposal for a common data model, well, I already said in the morning, so sorry for repeat, but just in case we have new attendance. This IPB proposal for a common data model is a zip file with a rename extension to IPB. So this file will be composed of several files, including first a GBXML, also a specific XML for different assessments such as the EPC or the SRE, and another specific file for the life cycle global warming potential, follow this standard. And also another external docs for other information that cannot be codified in ASCII formats, such as image or PDFs. Well, then the common data model proposed by IPB is initially based on the GBXML format, trying to embed as much information as possible, such as the envelope characteristics, the thermal zones, the internal gains, the HVAC system, and so on, taking advantage of this already available standardized format. So here are some examples. This is for the materials with all its thermal properties and so on within the format. Also the construction, an example for a construction with all its layers of materials with materials and thickness and so on. So, which is the general guideline for defining the format of this IPB schema? Well, first, specific information should be in the specific file. So, information that is not related to energy should be included in this specific file, in this XML. For instance, the smart readiness indicator assessment. So information that could be partially included in the GBXML and partially not, but should be distributed in both files using well, both files within the schema. So information in the specific file should be classified by country, assessment, and software. So the IPB schema is being developed and tested by a consortium of organizations from 3 EU countries, Austria, the Netherlands, and Spain. So it will be tested in these 3 contexts. So specific data on national methods will then be included in a specific country block within the XML. This is what is here. Okay. Then each country block will include at least these 4 aspects. First, a common section for all building data that are not included in the GBXML, but are common for all the national procedures, okay? For all the national procedures for the EPC, for instance. Then an EPC block. Also, an EPC block containing data related to the requirements for EPC assessment in this specific country. Okay, it's EPC block for each country. Then a block and a specific block also for each certification tool with specific data, because one national context can involve different EPC softwares. For instance, this is an example for Spain. Okay, this is CEX and CERMA are 2 different procedures for their certification. And finally, an SRE block, okay, the smart readiness indicator block that will include input and output for the assessment. So some benefits, some preliminary list of benefits of a common data format as proposed by the iEPB project. Well, at least reuse of building data, measured and calculated, accessible from different platforms and softwares. Just one record for the entire workflow of multiple assessment performed on the building, on a specific building. Input and output from different EPB assessments stored in the same file. This approach is modular and extensible. It's a modular and extensible format, for instance, for future needs, because we would like to include new blocks for fire safety measures, for actual consumption data, for license, for technical inspections, and so on. So, finally, also, the iEPB project includes the development of the iEPB web app. This web app will allow the input and data management, the visualization of results with dynamic graphs, aggregated results, and so on. Also, different visualization modes according to the type of the user, for instance, administration, technicians, building owners. And also, it can be useful for a justification of the Article 16 and Article 22, as I mentioned before. I have already done, so thank you very much for your attention. Perfect timing. For further information, please follow our social media, project website, and so on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria. Flawless timekeeping. Excellent. Much appreciated. That leaves more time for discussion. Indeed, now you also ensured a nice transition that you continued with the EPBD provisions, and then you went in the technicalities of iEPB and how it's providing support. Now we go further, and we welcome Sophie. Yes, together. Please, Sophie, the floor is yours. Sophie is from R2M Solution France and representing SmarterEPC.
So I will stand?
If you prefer, yes.
Yeah.
And then let me just take my notebook. Just let me know when to change the slide.
Okay, so thanks, and I'm here indeed to represent the SmarterEPC project, which is a sister project of iEPB. Okay, so SmarterEPC, we started 1 year ago with 9 partners covering 7 countries. And if you can go to the next slide, you see the list of partners, but I'm not going to detail this at the moment. Here, I would like to spend some time on this slide. So the EPC and SRI schemes needs and challenges. There are some challenges for each of both schemes. And this morning we discussed a lot the challenges about the SRI, for instance. There are challenges with the technical framework, etc., etc. But what is important here is that they are facing some similar challenges altogether, EPC and SRI. And if we adopt a forward-looking perspective, for sure, once the individual challenges of each of the 2 schemes are resolved, there is also a specific challenge in terms of their integration. Because practically speaking, it will be the same auditors, very likely, that are going to assess the energy performance and the smart readiness of buildings. So they should be trained together for the 2 schemes. So they will also conduct, very likely, the 2 assessments together. So if I am an energy auditor or in charge of doing this, I will check, for instance, the heating system of a building. So at once, I would like to check both the energy performance aspects and the smartness aspects of the heating system, and the same for the other domains, etc. So this is something super important, and perhaps at the moment it's not the main focus of the discussions because there are some specific technical aspects under focus for the SRI, for EPCs, but for sure this will come at a certain point in time. So this is the mindset in SmarterEPC. It is to anticipate all these challenges and to prepare the grants to provide some insights, recommendations that the member states and the European Commission will use or can use, or we will put this at their disposal. Let's go to the next. So this was presented already this morning. This is just a simple visual to explain the idea of this SmarterEPC hub. So to connect different tools to assess the energy performance and the smart readiness of buildings. What is super important is that the data input, because for sure, a lot of things can be or cannot be integrated between EPC and SRI, but for sure, data input is the thing that will be very useful. So as I said, well, an auditor is going to check to input data concerning the heating system from the two perspectives. So that's why we are working also on this EPC and SRI on-site audit procedures. This is also something that was presented this morning. So this is indeed super important, and this procedure will feed this data acquisition layer of the hub that will use also several data input procedures like connecting with BIM files, with DBLs files, or of course some manually inputted data, etc. And then for everything that is calculating the energy performance class, calculating the smart readiness indicators, this can be done with existing tools. So here the purpose of the project is not to develop another tool that will there are already some very good tools that are very performing. So the idea is just to make sure that these tools are made available and that the users that want to evaluate the EPC or SRI of a building, they can find on this hub everything they need. They have a smart data interface to input data, and then they can use one of these tools in order to conduct the calculations. So a few aspects on which we are working in order to maximize the quality of the future EPC certificates. So one thing we have done at the beginning of the project is to conduct a kind of survey. So we combine some desk research, of course, since there are already a lot of projects that have worked on the topic. We have interviewed some experts, both policy experts and technical experts, and conducting also an online survey in order to check with them, to confirm with them, or to, well, collect their views on the main use cases for the SmarterEPC hub. And some of the main insights we have gathered from those experts. So first, they consider the hub as indeed a very relevant tool, since it should be a simple way to access the most recent and advanced EPC and SRI calculation tools. So they agree with us that this is something really useful, since a lot of tools exist and may not be known or available to everyone. Of course, having a smart data input will allow saving time, reducing costs, and reducing also the risk of errors, which is a very important aspect, and will deliver unified EPC and SRI assessments. Something also super important at the moment, the hub is going to connect the tools created, let's say, by the other projects of the cluster, but for the moment, not the, let's say, commercial EPC tools. But we are also working on this. This is perhaps a next step that we will have in the project. Something also super important is that concerning the SRI, the framework is not stabilized yet, since this is also something we discussed this morning. There are some test phases ongoing, and it is the purpose of the test phases, well, to challenge also the technical framework. So perhaps some recommendations will be issued, and in the end we will have a different, not methodology, because the structure of the methodology is quite stable, but some, let's say, configurations or parameters of the methodology can be adapted. So it's super important for all the tools, but also for the SmarterEPC hub, to be designed in a flexible manner in order to accommodate these possible changes, let's say. Okay, so here I'm not going to detail it because this is something I have already mentioned. So we have this procedure for single EPC and SRI on-site audit that will become also part of standardization activities. So there is a slide also on this. Super important also to have some common training programs. Training is going to be a big issue because there's a new scheme, this SRI, completely new. Most EPC assessors, they are not familiar at all, and this is also something that was shown this morning. It's completely new to them, so for sure there will be huge training needs. And we intend also to contribute filling these needs with the project. So here, this is what we mentioned earlier, this activity concerning the standardization. So in Smart Square, some work has been done in order to develop a standard methodology for SRI. And here the idea is to continue this work and to develop a standard methodology for both EPC and SRI. Some demonstration activities also that we are going to conduct in the countries that are illustrated here by the flags. The idea is to use the hub in order to conduct in different countries these assessments and to check how it's working with different EPC and SRI tools. Yes, so very, very quickly, so we have also this mindset of continuous improvement, and I think it's super important since the policy framework is not stabilized yet. We know that the EPBD is going to be transposed in national regulations. There are still some milestones to be reached. So for us, it is super important to have this continuous improvement mindset in order to make sure to deliver an impactful result and useful result. Yes, we have a task also. We wanted to focus a bit on this, so led by CRIF, an Italian partner, on de-risking financing of energy efficiency. This is also something that was mentioned several times today, that there is a big financial aspect also in all these instruments, since building owners are also keen to use these instruments in order to increase the value of their building. Of course, if my building has a high EPC class and a high SRI class, of course, there are some financial consequences. So it is something very important that we have in mind, and there will be some work also conducted on this. And we would like also to simplify the understanding of how EPC and SRI have impact on the financial value of buildings. So this is something different, but I wanted also to present this because so the project is quite recent. We started almost 1 year ago, and we have this deliverable that is a public one, so you can find it on our website, in which we have thoroughly assessed all the tools available in the 27 member states for conducting EPCs. So it is a very precise work that has been done. And there is also this atlas, so you can find it, so epcatlas.eu. That is very well presented, very visual, and you can find for all EU countries. So here it is highlighted for France. The list of EPC tools that are available on the market for this specific country, and this is done for the 27 countries. So this is something a bit on top of the activities of SmarterEPC, but very useful. I think there is a last slide, yes. So very brief and simple conclusion. So integrating EPC and SRI schemes and possibly other instruments will be key, and for sure this is a step that will be done, and it is in the EPBD recast. I don't remember the exact formulation, but there is something on this. The member states are invited to kind of integrate the SRI into the EPC scheme. And we don't know yet how they will do this, so this is also our role as a project to provide some insights in order to help them take the good decisions. But for sure, something will be done in this direction. And something important indeed, at the moment the hub will connect, according to what we have in the project description, a limited number of EPC and SRI tools, but the idea is also to extend this, and in the future to have a hub that will connect ideally all tools for EPCs and SRI. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sophie. You guys are making my life very easy. Flawless timekeeping. We started a bit later and we are on track. So applause for the speakers one more time for all of them. This is always a challenge for the moderator. So for me, it was quite easy today. That was it for the listening part. Now we get to the, I would say, exciting part. I just make one comment before I invite all the speakers to come on the podium. You might ask yourself, why do you have so many projects, right? That's like the immediate question that comes to your mind. Well, you have seen just 2 of the projects in the next session after the coffee break, which you'll have. We will not lock the door. You can go and have a coffee. You will see in the next session there will be 5 other projects that will present. But already with 2 projects, you saw that the overlaps are quite minimal and the approaches are different. And without having such a plethora of projects in different countries with different approaches, you cannot really ensure diversity and be fully sure on a pathway that can then be implemented via EPBD, which comes top-down to member states. So this is really a breeding ground for new ideas, new concepts that really support in an evidence-based manner the implementation of the EPBD. And that's why, personally, I'm very grateful to be part of this group, this community. So I'll stop there and I invite everybody, Hans, Sylvain, Maria, Sophie, please come on the podium. I've also put you on the screen so that people online adequately see you. I know for some of you the pictures are taken some while ago. I got some feedback that you appreciate this. But like this, we are in both settings. Okay, perfect. So I said earlier, if you have any burning questions, to write them down. Before I open the floor to questions, I have my own, of course. I'm curious if any of the speakers would like to cross-cut in between the presentations. If you have any questions for any of you that sparked your interest, just from the top of your head. If not, we can leave that for later. If you could please turn the microphone on. Thank you, Hans. Please break the ice.
But not to pick you out or so, but to Sophie, because I was interested in the aspect of the audit and whether you have tested it. I mean, I suppose that this to do with the obligation under the new recast EPBD to do adequate quality controls of the EPCs. But have you tested this already?
Well, actually, it's still. So this is something still under development. We are also, by the way, not only conducting this standardization process for the audits themselves, but we are also working on possibly integrating the two certificates together. So we are considering this integration in different manners at different stages, let's say, of the process, but this is still ongoing indeed. And at the moment, regarding EPC and SRI, the overlap is quite small, actually, between the two schemes. They are contributing to energy efficiency with really two different perspectives. But still, we think that from an audit perspective, there is a lot to do in order to integrate the data collection, let's say. But at the moment, no, I'm not able to really answer your question. But of course, if anyone in the room, there are some partners also in the room. So if they want to complement what I said, no problem.
Thank you. Any other cross-speaker questions? Okay, none for now. Okay, so I open the floor to the audience, please. Erwin? I'll run around, so you need to wait.
Erwin Cornelis representing ANEC. Not a question, but actually congratulations. So I really welcome that cluster, in which, projects of a different topic, the same topic, different topics, different projects, different angles are presented together here. I really welcome that. In the past, I also have been involved in Horizon 2020 projects and intelligent energy for Europe. Long history. I never have been invited to such a cluster. So congratulations to CINEA and also to the organizing organizations.
Thank you. Anybody wants to continue on that stream? Did you also raise a question? Okay. Here.
Hello, I'm Carlota from Riva. I was just wondering if from the projects you can expand a little bit on the exploitation plan for afterwards, because I know sometimes, these results stay, within the project, and after the end of that, there's no clear path. And in this, within this, if CINEA, how can CINEA step in and exploit the results of this project that sometimes, just end with them, basically. Thank you.
Regarding the EPB, Andre, maybe you know better the exploitation plan than me, indeed. No?
Yeah, well, I had a feeling this is both for the project implementers and the project funding agency. Okay. On my side, just to open this, because it's very interesting. At least in this cluster, what happened was that there was this sequence of projects, as I said before, which makes sense. And basically, as we matured with the projects, and I think SmarterEPC is a very good example, and there are other projects that we'll present in the afternoon, some things were covered. Like there were some gaps, right? And then gradually they were covered. So the newer projects, the younger projects of the family, they just went further. So they didn't go back again and do the things that have been done before. So I think this ensured, at least for this cluster, exploitation became something business as usual, because we were having all these coordination meetings, which are also done internally. So we have plenaries, just us in the projects, and we also do jointly activities in public settings, like we do today. So this is my perception. That's how I perceive things. I don't know if the colleagues would like to share their perspectives, how you see this. Please, Sophie.
Yes, just mentioning that it is precisely the purpose of the SmarterEPC hub to make available those tools developed by the other projects, so facilitating the exploitation of the tools created by the other projects, those 7 tools that we are connecting through the hub. And this is also made possible, and this idea has been developed also because some of the SmarterEPC partners, they are also the partners in charge of developing the tools in the other projects. So it's let's say a community working on this. And indeed, it is super important to keep these tools available through the hub in order to make them, yes, still available to policymakers for future policy developments. So this is, the exact purpose of the project.
Thank you, Sophie. Hans, please.
Yeah, maybe to add, I mean, obviously from a funding authority perspective, it's always painful to see if you have a project that starts something, launches something, and then ends, but is not really able to roll out. And what we are really trying to support in life, in particular, is the uptake of new innovative tools and things. So I mean, for us, the rollout and the implementation plan, even beyond the project, is always important, and that's something we look at. But we obviously look, especially if we look at in clusters, if we do the evaluation of proposals, we do look very carefully at projects that in particular build upon previous experience. So in that sense, as you say, I mean, some of the older projects, the newer projects have been building on the older ones in this cluster. So projects like Smarter are trying to learn the lessons from all. So I think that's important. I think for us in the end, it's the importance is bringing back that experience. I mean, in order to help to roll out these new tools, is hopefully that they are well tested, but then bring back that policy experience also to the policymakers. I mean, and there I think, I mean, that I try to emphasize it in our presentation, that we try to really have also a policy feedback to the units, but also try to make sure that member states are aware of these tools and that they can consider beyond the project countries that are already involved, also consider the uptake of these tools. So it's very important. I don't know if Sylvain, anything from your perspective?
No, I think it's fine.
Okay, great. There was another question, but I have a follow-up question on this, and actually it's for you, Hans. Again, I'm biased. So we started the cluster with Horizon 2020. It was EASME back then, and there were still coordination and support actions, innovation or research and innovation actions. There was always a connection between the CSA and policymaking, and we had support from EASME colleagues, but I have the perception that when the CSA projects moved to the live set, this was enhanced. What you just said now, this is actually what triggered my question. It's much more linked to policy making and uptake of existing policies than it was before. And I was wondering, just it's also to say congrats. It's really great to see this, and this also helps with the exploitation, what Carlota was asking about, because if the results are made more available in the sense of raising awareness of those target audiences that the project need to reach, and you are supporting like this, having more coordination with the colleagues at DG ENER, for example, for EPBD and EED and RED, this really makes this magic, as I like to call it. And I was wondering what changed, how did you manage to make this leap from CSA in Horizon 2020 to live set projects?
Maybe a bit tricky question for me to answer, because I mean I only joined Life a year ago, so I don't have the whole experience of Horizon and how the projects were managed there. I mean, it's obviously the funding conditions by moving into Life have slightly changed, but I think, I don't know, we try to have a very, very close relationship with the parent DG. So, which is in our case for the Clean Energy Transition Program, the DG Energy, Director General for Energy. So, I mean, we regularly present the projects and the project's results to the relevant policy officers in the DG, so that they're informed, up to date. We do have, I mean, it's nice to hear from Evan that, you know, it's to have such cluster meetings. We do actually This one is a self-standing, self-evolving cluster, but we do get clusters of projects together regularly, every 1-2 years, depending on the need, and mostly do that in Brussels because it allows the interaction also with the policy DGs, so that's very important. And as said, I mean, we have specific projects that support member states and member states experts, where we also try to bring in the experience from the project and present projects on a case-by-case basis. These are called concerted actions, but for each of the directives we have one concerted action that brings experts from member states together twice a year.
Thank you. Well, I can only say keep it on. I don't know, Sylvain, if you want to complement from that point of view. Yes, I give you the hand mic.
Yeah, and I'm going to stand too because I've been sitting too long and actually it's tiring, so sorry guys. No, yeah, really just to flag, to underline that disconnection between the projects funded under LIFE and the work that is done under the supervision of DG ENER on the implementation of the policies is really critical. So here you have the example of the energy performance certificates. There's the example of the smart readiness indicator with an even closer, I would say, integration of the projects into the policy implementation setup. But connecting also to a previous question, the type of actions that we are supporting here are policy support actions. So they are designed in order to support the implementation of policies in the Union. And so the exploitation aspect is probably a bit less important, I mean commercial exploitation, than, for instance, I don't know, innovation actions. We have a colleague from DG RTD in the room, so I'm turning at him. So for instance, in innovation action, when you develop an innovative technology that is then supposed to be brought to the market, here it's of course different. If a project is helping, for instance, a member state to improve the database of EPCs, it's already a very strong contribution, meaning that it's not only on the basis of whether the tools are commercially exploited or so on, that the success of a project would be evaluated.
Thank you. Sorry for keeping you waiting.
Thank you. Sophie, one question. I just downloaded your deliverable. By the way, compliments to make them available quickly. Should be practice. I observed one piece of data that the majority of EPC tools across Europe are capable of generating the European, using to apply the European EPC calculation model. I don't know, have you looked at it? Are they really true, capable? Are the results right? Did you see anything? I might have a follow-up question, so I just keep it.
So maybe here I will ask the help of Paris, who was leading this work.
Actually, the information for the 72 tools was collected by colleagues across our network. And yeah, the question was whether the either the 13790 or the 52000 series standards are used. But I think this is more related to what the member state follows. So it's not related to the tool per se, but to the national methodology. But what we actually wanted to do in this case was, as our discussion in this project, we said that before in our previous session, it's about data collection and interoperability between different types of data and data for SRI and EPC. So this is an SRI-EPC project, the SmarterEPC. We just wanted, towards developing our tools, to trace the conditions in the member states for the tools that are using for the EPC, if these are based on the European standards or if these collect data in another manner, which is the case for some member states. And in order to define compatibility between data for EPC and SRI. So this was the purpose for doing that. But at the end of the day, the information that we collected was so rich that we said, okay, let's put this in an atlas. The atlas actually was not in the contract. So this is over and above from our contract. In the proposal, we didn't describe any EPC atlas. But when we saw the data that we collected, we said, okay, we have something interesting here. Let's create the atlas. Let's give this out at the initial stages of the project so that we interact with the community and get as much information as possible.
Yeah, not exactly what they, okay, that's difficult. Just to explain, I'm from the TUNES project, so we are a policy implementation project with 7 energy agencies. I explain more in a minute. The observation is with the agencies that as soon as they hear they have to change anything about their national methodology, their hairs go up, and they consider this as immense effort to go past stakeholders and to get it on track. It's called resistance to change. It is resistance to change of the people. I fully agree with that, but the thing is that there's further resistance down the line. Yeah, there are the regions, there are the stakeholders, and whatever, and all of them you have to convince. And if you do something, then you have to convince it, and it's no longer on us to do it, but on them. So. I don't know. I'm aware. I'm not talking to the European Commission, to DG ENER. Nevertheless, of all the options which are in the EPBD, which methodological changes would be the most important for the Commission to be adopted by the member states, if there is an opinion?
So. It was a very long question. Yes. And if you had to summarize it in a few words.
What should the member states adapt from the EPBD?
What should the member states adapt from the EPBD? I mean, you are trying to make me, summarize all what the colleagues in in ENER are doing over the next month to prepare the guidance. But well, honestly, I cannot comment on this. Even if I honestly had a simple opinion to share, I'm not entitled to share it at this point in time. Because, you know, there are exchanges ongoing between the Commission and the Member State representatives in dedicated settings. And until there are agreements on especially the main issues, it's difficult to comment on this. So sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's going to be published.
Well, I mentioned the overall schedule, which is you want on the guidance, which is the horizon is spring of next year, so it's only a matter of months. But then the different components of the guidance, depending on the articles addressed, do not evolve at the same time. So some are more advanced, maybe because the provisions are easier to transpose and implement, and some are less advanced. But in any case, the inputs that are collected from the project, and in particular in terms of good practices from which the authorities could take some inspiration, are really interesting in this process, because then it allows to give examples to show that it's possible to implement some provisions in a clever and an effective way. So voilà.
Yeah. All right. I think with the guidance you'll have more clarity. With the guidance when it comes out next year, you have more clarity, both in interpreting what is expected from member states and from stakeholders related to that, but also on the timeline of related delegated acts and so on that will need to help implement the directive.
Delegated acts from the Commission, from the EU.
Yeah.
All right, so I know it's a bit unorthodox, but may I ask a question to someone in the audience?
Yes.
All right. So I mentioned that we had a colleague from RTD in the room, so my colleague Piero De Bonis, whom I'm very happy to see here. And I've been in this room the full day, basically, since this morning, and I've had a bit the feeling that I was in the policy friends room corner of the conference, where when I went to the to the stands and when I hear about what's happening in the other rooms, it's a lot about innovation actions, Horizon Europe and so on. So I see we are kind of split, between the communities, so to say. And my question to Piero would be, Piero, since you are representing research and innovation in this room, what could we do in order to make sure people get together between policy and research and innovation?
Well, I'm here because we had yesterday the stakeholder forum of the Bill for People European Partnership of Horizon Europe. So I think that is already a starting point, because in the partnership we are really trying to, of course, put innovation at the same time in line with actions that the partners other than the union are expected to do for a better market uptake and for a better, I would say, application of the current provisions. So my reply to your question would be, first of all, of course, the Bill for People partnership is already happening. It's already, that's why we organized it back to back with the Sustainable Places Conference. And for the rest, I definitely agree with you. I mean, attending Sustainable Places really gives you the impression that you wonder where innovation finishes and market uptake starts, really. It's also, since this morning, I have the same impression. I had the same impression.
Thank you very much. You're number 3. You want to make a for the build for people?
Yeah, sorry for jumping in. I cannot be more agreeing with Piero. I'm from the private side of the partnership, so confirmed.
Just say who you are, not everybody.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Apologies. Anastasia Urchishin, European Construction Technology Platform. Together with World Green Building Council, we are managing from the private side the Build for People partnership. So, yeah, thank you, Piero. You did all the job. I just confirm.
Perfect, synchronicities. Just going back, and then I come to you guys. There was a question, what's most relevant? Or what does this EPBD recast bring? That's at the top of the agenda. Again, I'm biased, but for me, Articles 16 and 22, I feel they are beneath everything else. Because this common data model, it's something that has been discussed a lot about. We talked about harmonization in the past. Now we say more convergence. I don't want to say which word is better than the other. I don't think that matters in the end. We need to achieve our goals. That's what's important, and our targets. So I get back to you, Maria. If you can share a bit more, because common data model, just the terminology can be interpreted. Can you please share a bit more? How do you think what you are doing, for example, in iEPB, could support the member states in implementing Article 16 and 22?
Okay, I think it's the basis for interoperability and data exchange. So we have tried to identify a hierarchical structure to include in just a common file all the information related to the most common and relevant EPB assessment. So as I said earlier, the most relevant information related to the building energy model will be included in this GBXML. That is a well-known common data format in the sector. So as much information as possible will be included in this file. But then we have created a specific XML file to include all the relevant data regarding national EPB assessments. So we have a structure in a first block, one block per country, and each country will have several blocks, including specificities regarding their EPC tools, regarding the SRA assessment, for instance. But also the benefit of this approach is that it's modular and expandable to other EPB assessments and other requirements for data exchange regarding license, inspections, energy audits, or other typology of EPB assessment. So if we embed all the information in this common data format, so the terminology of the structure is the iEPB schema, that is the rules for structure all the information within the XML. If we are able to embed all the information here, we have a powerful tool for this data exchange between different platforms, different softwares, different countries, indeed between different EPB assessments, but globally. For instance, regarding a lead sustainable assessment, or so. I think it's a powerful tool for this purpose. But it needs also to be exploited and implemented, and
yeah. So we have 3 questions from the audience, and then we stop it. We continue in the next session. Just one question. Maybe some people are wondering, but they are too shy to ask. So I'll maybe put you in an uncomfortable position. How come did you use GBXML? How was the decision-making process behind this decision?
Well, I think at the moment it's at the member state, because, for instance, I know the case for Spain. We already have an XML, for instance, for results, for output from the EPB assessments. So, not EPB assessments, sorry, for the results from the EPC. So we have in Spain, for instance, 5 different tools for energy performance certification. But all these tools are able to produce as output exactly the same XML. Why? Because our administration, our ministry decide that they are going to define this XML with this purpose. In this XML is used for populate regional EPC databases that then are also need to be centralized in a common national database. So at some level, it's a decision of the country, of the member state. I'm not sure okay, the European Commission, I assume that also could suggest or guideline to this common EU data model, but probably member states have something to say also. Of course.
The principle of subsidiarity, that's ingrained in our EU. So I have 3 more questions. I'm sorry that I need to break it, but I'm already taking a few minutes from your coffee break, so please, the first one.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Leandro Madrazo. I'm the project coordinator of TimePack. My question was about a topic that Sylvain was saying before a few minutes ago. So maybe I also was raised before. It's about the coexistence between legislation and research and how they are feeding each other very clearly in this context. Because this is one of the things we discuss in our project. Reading the EPBD Recast, it sometimes looks like a research proposal more than a legislation. You are referring to tools that are not in place. It's like it would be nice that we have EPC databases everywhere, connected national databases with the European Observatory, but the fact is that these tools, not only because of the XML format, other things, they are not in place. And they have not been in place in the 20 years that the EPC has been already operative. So we have the feeling that in this kind of coming together legislation with research, which is very positive on one side, on the other side it's mixing both worlds in a way. And that's the feeling we had by analyzing the EPBD. So I have a feeling that here there are 3 levels involved. Legislation, research and development, the tools that we are still trying to do because they don't exist. And then the reality of the building stock. The building stock needs to be improved, and the actors to improve it means homeowners, means investment, means people collaborating, things that are not to do with the technology and have nothing to do maybe with European legislation. So I don't know how you see all of these 3 elements interrelated, because clearly you have made a clear direction, particularly in these calls from EPC projects we have seen here and the new life, that really research supports legislation, legislation supports research in a way. But how do you see yourself? Have you really made this reflection on purpose? You have certain long-term objectives of how to influence the current situation through this strategy?
Thank you, Leandro.
Sorry, I was waiting for the microphone. Difficult. I mean, I agree. I mean, sometimes legislation goes through a long procedure, and sometimes looks a bit not quite as when it was proposed. And EPBD went through quite a bit of reformulations, so that's a compromise, and that's why the guidance is so important as well, because it helps then implement it. I don't know whether there's our project really tried to support the, we look at what the policy is asking for, and we see how we can support that with research and application of innovative tools. That's, I think, the main purpose. But obviously, sometimes, as I said, projects bring also new ideas, and these ones are fed back to the policymakers, both at national level, but also at European level, and therefore also obviously go into the legislative procedures as ideas to be taken up. I think that's part of the process.
Thank you very much. Well, it's great to be part of a purposeful community that reassures us that we are heading in the right direction. Number 2 and then number 3, and we stop. Thank you.
Hello, thank you for your presentations. This is Alejandro from Valencia Clima Energía, Spain. And I was thinking, because Sophie, you were speaking about the professionals, how to train them. And I was wondering, in the future, if I am to ask for an EPC, what kind of professional or studio should I approach? Because right now you can have some EPCs done, maybe with little warranties, but for the future, what kind of company will take care of this? Because I saw also a trend of big companies aggregating all the energy-related services. Is this the model in the market that you see in the future, or what kind of companies?
Yeah, concerning EPCs, it is a regulatory instrument. So only the professionals that are accredited by member states and using also a tool that is accredited by member states can deliver an official energy performance certificate. So we are not in a market-based labeling scheme that can be delivered by some other professionals. So here it's really a regulatory instrument. So there's a list of accredited professionals, and I think in the future that it will be the same for the SRI, and probably also there will be a big overlap between these two lists, probably. Yeah, it's difficult to answer. I think there are two different markets. One for really the big tertiary buildings, or those the owners of a full portfolio of buildings. Of course, they probably work with big companies. And then there's also the market for the single family houses or other small buildings. And I think in this case, it's a bit different. So I don't have a clear answer to your question.
Thank you. And the last one?
Yeah, I wanted to be the last. So the question is for Hans and Sylvain. We are, I'm Paris Fogaris from Frederick University and UVA Tech, a spin-off of Frederick University. We're actually involved in quite a few projects in the field, in Smart Living EPC, in SmarterEPC. We're full partners in these projects. So the question is the following. We recognize that there is a gap concerning the conditions of the EPCs among member states. And the keyword is harmonization. So understand that one of the main policies under DG ENER is how to harmonize the way we perform the EPC assessment across the member states. I may have missed that, but do you have, let's say, planned to have a call or something under live with this topic? What should be done on a policy level or on, let's say, a research level towards bringing the EPCs closer? So we are having the Open Web for EU project. This is something in that direction, and we are also partners in that one, so for the EPC kernel. But do you have in mind any other initiatives that might be taken for this direction?
Maybe a bit early to say, because I mean, our next call is next year, and we'll start the reflections now. But I mean, as you said, I think the new project is already trying to work in that direction, at least providing a common standard basis for that. But I think, yeah, I mean, the EPC template and format leaves quite a bit of choice for member states. So I mean, that is the way it was designed and agreed, and I think that has to be taken into account. But whether we will have something specifically to help on that, I don't know. I think we do that already through our projects, because they're always inter-member states corporations. So I think. Anything else you want to add?
Okay, Hans, if you could press the next slide.
That's the most important thing.
No, the other way. Up, no. This one, super. So, please, the audience, a big round of applause for our speakers. Many thanks to you as well for being very engaging in the discussions, the open exchanges. We don't finish here, so we have a coffee break now, and then we welcome you back. You see on the slide it's 4 o'clock. Well, we took a bit extra, so let's make it 5 minutes, max 10 minutes past 4 o'clock. We welcome you back in the room, and we have a few other projects that we'll present in lightning talks, very short quantities of information, and then we will have again an open exchange at the end. So you're welcome to come back, and also the participants online. We will be back the latest at 10 minutes past 4 we start. Thank you very much.